You ever stop and think about how the most powerful moments in our lives are often the quietest ones? Today, we're diving deep into why silence isn't just empty space. Nope, it's actually a powerful tool for understanding, for creativity, and, believe it or not, for connection.
The author Herman Melville he nailed it with this quote. I mean, think about it, right? That moment right before a huge announcement, or the comfortable quiet between two old friends, even just staring at a sunset. They're all wrapped up in this profound silence.
And sometimes silence is the only thing to say. It's the only real response. And there's this incredible tradition from the Netherlands that shows this perfectly.
Let's be real. Our world is noisy. It's a non-stop barrage of sound. And when something terrible happens, all the words, all the speeches, they can start to feel really hollow, like they just don't measure up to the moment.
So what do the Dutch do? They have this tradition called the Silent March. And it's exactly what it sounds like. People just gather and they walk together, but there are no chants, no songs, no speeches. Just this incredibly powerful collective silence.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? When you're up against the deafening noise of violence or conflict, what could possibly be a stronger statement than thousands of people just choosing to be quiet together? It's not a lack of protest. The silence is the protest. Okay, so let's break down the 4 big benefits of silence we're going to get into. First, how you can hear more and know more. Then we'll talk about something called the creative void. After that, speaking without words. And finally, why silence is such an important respite for the mind. All right, first up, how being quiet actually helps you hear and know a whole lot more, not just about the world out there, but also about the world in here. The poet Rumi was all over this centuries ago. It's so simple, but so true. When we deliberately turn down the volume on the outside world, we start to pick up on all these signals we were totally missing before. And this listening, it happens on 2 totally different levels. On the one hand, you start to notice more about what's around you. You become a better observer. But maybe even more important, you start to hear that inner voice. Your intuition, your gut feelings. That quiet little voice that knows what's up. And this right here, this is basically ancient wisdom from Lao Tzu just boiled down. It sounds kind of harsh, but there's a deep truth to it. Real knowledge often comes from listening and watching, not from constantly talking. And it gets even deeper. In Buddhist philosophy, the whole idea is that when you quiet your mind and just watch your thoughts, you realize they're not solid. They just come and go. They aren't some fixed, permanent you. And silence is what gives you the space to actually see that for yourself. Okay, so moving on to our second point. This is where it gets really cool, because silence isn't just an empty space. It's actually a fertile ground for new ideas. It's a creative void. I mean, even Albert Einstein said that a quiet, solitary life was key to his creativity. He talked about how when he'd get stuck on a problem, he'd just stop trying to think and sort of swim in silence and wait for an idea to pop up. And get this, there's actual modern science to back this all up. Those big aha moments, they come from really faint, quiet signals between our neurons. If your brain is too noisy and distracted, you'll never hear them. But when you're quiet, your brain can daydream and start connecting all these different ideas. Silence literally lets those quiet, creative sparks catch fire. So, silence helps us listen better, it helps us create. But what about talking? Well, here's the paradox. One of the most powerful things you can do when communicating is to stop talking. Mark Twain, a total master of words, knew this. He knew that the real impact is often in the space between the words. A pause at just the right moment? It can add drama, create suspense. It can grab someone's attention way better than just piling on more words. So, how long does a silent pause have to be before it gets powerful? Well, research shows that in a normal conversation, things start to feel uncomfortable, even unbearable, after just 4 seconds. And why is that 4-second pause so potent? It's all about uncertainty. The other person's brain just goes into overdrive, right? They start filling that silence with questions and doubts. And that discomfort, it can be a crazy effective tool, like in the negotiation, because it pushes the other person to talk first, just to break that tension. Okay, and for our last point, let's talk about our own health. In a world that is just constantly buzzing and beeping, silence isn't some kind of luxury. It's actually a crucial form of healing. And here's a wild finding from a study.
Researchers found that just 2 minutes of total silence was more relaxing for people's brains and bodies than listening to what we think of as relaxing music. Sometimes the best sound really is no sound at all.
Florence Nightingale, the woman who basically invented modern nursing, was saying this over 100 years ago. She saw unnecessary noise as a form of cruelty, something that actively hurts us, whether we're sick or healthy.
The thing is, we've gotten used to a constant hum of noise, traffic, pings from our phones, endless chatter, but it does real damage. It raises our stress hormones and makes it harder to think straight. Silence is like hitting the reset button. It lets our minds recalibrate and just recover.
And that really brings us to the beautiful paradox of what silence is. It's all of these things at once. It's mysterious, but it can bring clarity. It can be soothing, but also deeply uncomfortable. It looks like you're doing nothing, but it's so useful. It's this amazing force full of these powerful contradictions.
So as we wrap up, the big question isn't really if silence is powerful. We know it is. The real question, the one I want you to walk away with, is this. In your own loud, busy, crazy world, where are you going to find your silence?